Some other places that could be ideal for finding some of your vintage clothing. In my case, it all started with my grandmother. So perhaps you have some people in your family who have some things stored away that they don't want anything to do with. You might get lucky and find some items there. Some other places that you might is around Halloween time. A lot of stores will bring out a lot of vintage or even vintage replica, and you can find some really cool items there around Halloween time, wherever your favorite Halloween place to shop is. Now, if you also have maybe a little more spending you want to do, if you have a little more money or you don't want to bother with the thrift stores, a great place to go is eBay. You can look online, and I found some amazing pieces there. Of course, there is a little risk sometimes when you're buying things online because you don't get to try it on, but it's worth a shot. Most things on eBay I found, they price them fair. You can find some really nice items for a fair price on eBay. And you can search really specifically. eBay has created a vintage-specific shopping portion on their site, so it makes it real easy. They even break it down in decades. If you're looking for something in the 1950s, you can click on that, or the 60s, the 70s, and you can break it down like that, and there's an assortment of things that you can look through. So that's another great place to look. There's also websites that you can go to. So if you're online, you can just type in vintage clothing. You can find some great websites that offer vintage clothing. It might be a little bit more than what you might find on eBay because those guys, they usually know their stuff. And you can also find some great vintage replica items. For example, the dress I'm wearing looks like a great vintage. It actually is a modern day to look vintage. And this one is by EC Star. You can find some great stuff that is online. This one here also is a vintage replica, and they do a great job. A lot of these places are realizing people are wanting to find some vintage clothing, but it's getting more and more limited. So there's some companies that are making some really great pieces that look vintage with some great detailing, such as this. And what's really nice about the modern-day vintage replica is they fit a modern-day woman. I think back in the day they had smaller torsos, and so it's kind of harder to find a fit for a modern-day woman. So the vintage replica websites are great, too. This one is by Stop Staring. They're probably one of the most popular vintage replica clothing lines, if I may say so myself, and they make some great pieces. So just remember, you have eBay, you can look online, just type in vintage clothing, and there's a whole bunch of stuff out there. And again, Halloween, you can find some great pieces. So that's just some tips where you can find some vintage that works for you outside of the thrift stores and the yard sales.